think you should.
Welcome to this week's episode of Whoscussion, where your hosts are on far know that random guy and the audibly pleasing Harriet Skelly. Yes. Alright, me and the living skeleton here are going to take you through School Reunion and The Girl in the Fireplace for Part A. For Part B, we're doing The Scapegoat and A Home from Home, with The Scapegoat being an 8th Doctor and Lucy Miller story, and A Home from Home being more of a Liz Shaw short trip. School Reunion. So with the prequel, Noel Clarke is like, hey, I'm doing that thing from Series 1 that I did in that one episode called Boomtown. And then they come, and the Doctor becomes a teacher at the school. He says correctamundo and says it's a word he'll never ever say again. And I really, really hope there's no expanded universe material where he ever says that word again, because that was silly. But hey, Series 2. The Doctor and Rose are working at the school. Rose is a calf lady.
Well, that's the only thing she's really qualified to do. So
yeah, that's the thing, right? It's like,
but yet the Doctor's totally qualified to be a science teacher. I mean,
yeah. I was like,
he's probably got good credentials.
Yeah, well, because we know from the 2nd and 4th Doctors, he studied at 2 Earth universities for like the lols. Yeah. So
he just get them to call up those universities. And be like, oh yeah, we totally have this guy.
Yeah. Hey, just ring my old friend who worked at Cambridge, who actually was a Time Lord, genocidal maniac. Lovely old man.
Well, I mean, probably not that person, but
what's his name, Professor?
Pull up the people who what's the word? Blah blah blah. The chancellors and stuff.
Oh my
god!
Like,
oh yeah, we've got
so much.
We've got a John Smith on. He teaches here at some point or another. I'm like, oh, when? Oh, like 1800s. This guy's not 200 years old, so
no. He's an alumni. And then that's all they need to know. Like, oh, he's an alumni. All good. So the Doctor's teaching. Rose is in the calf, and she's like, oh, why do I have to be working the calf? And the Doctor's like, well,
yeah, what else are you going to
do? So 10 is following this trend.
I guess she could have been she could have pulled off being a student.
No.
I mean, with her attitude, I think.
Yeah. Like, oh, hey, did you get held back forever?
Yes.
The Doctor, but his interaction with Rose as the calf lady has followed this sort of trend that Harriet Skelly made me aware of since we started Series 2, is that 10 doesn't seem to want her around.
Yeah, he doesn't care for her at all anymore, and it's fantastic.
It's so interesting because people think of like 10 and Rose as the couple, and the more we go through Series 2, I can't agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely 9 who is infatuated with her, and he's just 10 just doesn't. Yeah, he really doesn't want her around. There's like the subtext of him just like hating her a lot. Like,
But he makes fun of her.
Into this, you got me into this state. You basically killed me.
By becoming Super Saiyan. I still think it was weird that 9 didn't use the Delta Wave because Earth had been eradicated.
Yeah, we know.
So that was great. So happy. Mickey is like, is the eyes on the ground and everything is. So he's been helping. He's told them that, something strange is going on. The Doctor and Rose, while they're talking at the lunch, are like, yeah, Mickey's right. There was something going on. It's almost like him and Jackie would have made better companions. And that's canonically what they said in that scene.
Exactly. Absolutely. But man, I should have brought your mother with me instead.
Yeah.
She would have been way better.
It's so annoying because, like, Mickey, because she kissed, like, proper, like, lovingly kissed Mickey at the end of the Christmas special. Oh, no, sorry, the beginning of New Earth. So, like, why is she grumpy that Mickey wants to hang out with them? It's I just don't understand. It's like Series 1.
She is a child.
Yeah.
She's a child. But also the whole thing is just their characters from episode to episode just don't make sense anymore as well. For at least for the last couple of episodes, it's almost like no one knows how to write these people anymore.
It's
which is fair,
peculiar.
considering Rose is a terrible character and should not have been written in the first place, and Mickey really doesn't. Mickey deserves better.
Yeah, and like if you look at the prequel, Mickey is doing some hard yards to keep Earth safe, and what I like about that is that's carried into Series 4. Like in Series 4, when he's like this badass like military combatant that like just kills aliens.
Exactly. That that's what he would have been if he'd actually. That's what's shown in the other universe is that if he would have been this fantastic human saving badass if Rose hadn't done that imprinting on him.
And also given him a criminal record of him being a possible murder suspect.
Yeah.
So that's great. Sarah Jane Smith's introduced.
Introduced.
Yeah.
Because this isn't
not
the
Sarah
previous
Jane.
companion at all.
It's really, really sad. So Sarah walks in, and I remember this scene because, as Harry's going to knows, I grew up with classic Who. So when I saw Sarah Jane Smith, I lost my shit, and I was like, "Mum, it's Sarah Jane Smith," and my mum was like, "Who?" I was like, "Oh, that's right. I love this way more than you remember it." And then Dad was like, "Oh, is that Liz Sladen?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, and I was like, "I know why you remember her, Dad." And so like that was a really big reveal for me. But like, it's so weird. Even back then, I thought it was weird how they handled this character, and she's handled a lot better in her spin-off.
Yeah, she does seem like she is her for a while.
Yeah, there's bits and pieces of.
Then you realize that people didn't get the character.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about that because I watched the Confidentials, and we're going to have a discussion about that. So Sarah Jane appears and she walks in, and the doctor's like, "Oh my gosh," and he's like fangirling, which is great because that's probably David Tennant's genuine reaction. And from the Confidentials, that's actually David Tennant's genuine reaction. Especially, I love it when they're behind the scenes. Like, "Oh, it's Liz Sladen." And like, she came on the set and it was great. I like Liz Sladen. And I was like, "Dude, you're 40. Like, that's great."
Care.
He doesn't care. He's like, "Oh my god, it's Sarah Jane Smith. Oh my god."
David Tennant is the biggest nerd.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like when I met Peter Davison.
He should have written it.
Yeah, exactly. It was like when I met Peter Davison for the first time, and I was like, "I liked your hat," and then he just looked at me like, "Please go away," and I was like, "Fair enough, bro," because like I don't know what to say to you, especially when I was talking to Turlo, and I was like, "Hey man," Mark Strickson was like, "Just go, bro. I'm signing you a copy of the 5 Doctors. Just leave." So that was great. But so there's this proper fangirl moment. It's pretty great. And she goes, "Oh, what's your name?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm John Smith." And she's like, "I knew somebody who went by John Smith." He's like, "Oh, it's an ordinary name. He's a very unordinary man."
Common.
Yeah. And I was just like, and he's like, "Oh," and then she leaves, and he's like, "My Sarah Jane." And I was like, "Nah, you're not Tom Baker or John
twirl a
Belushi."
scarf around him.
Yeah.
It's just like, "My Sarah Jane.
My Sarah Jane, oh, Tom Baker, ho, ho, ho.
Sarah Jane Leela. I'm not here, Doctor. Whatever, Leela."
So great. So they go out through the story, and it's nighttime, and the doctor's like, "Let's investigate." Mickey comes with them, and he's all like, "Hey, I hope you guys still remember how to write my character." And Rose and the doctor look at each other, and they're like, "Wait, you're here?" And he's like, "Hey, Mickey, you need to go off and go search for yourself because this is a trope from American television." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." And so he goes off, and then Rose and the doctor go off, and then at some point, Rose and the doctor get separated, and Sarah Jane's also investigating.
He says to Rose and Sarah that they need to go off and do the thing
hang on. No,
because,
so I'm talking about before Sarah gets mixed in. So,
right, yeah.
So the doctor and Rose leaves together. Mickey darts off, and then there's this scene which I really liked. Is Sarah Jane's investigating because she's an investigative journalist. They at least remembered that. And she walks into, I suppose, the basement of the school, which I know isn't uncommon. I just never had a basement in mine. But she goes in and she sees the TARDIS and it's like, ooh, we should have played some of the 70s music here. And then she turns around, the Doctor's like, you're probably wondering where Rose is. So is Floyd. and then she's like, oh, hey, oh my gosh, you're the Doctor. You've regenerated. He's like, half a dozen times since we last met. Yeah. Thing is, the last time they met, well, he was the 5th Doctor. So he might learn how to count. Wait, but the War Doctor fixes that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I mean,
I don't... Was it... What? No.
Yeah, did they... Sarah Jane meets 5.
When?
In the 5 Doctors.
Yeah, but that like timeline...
Oh, yeah, the time sync she wouldn't remember, of course.
Exactly.
Okay, but he would. Because, I suppose,
although she'd been time scooped from her own time when she wasn't with...
Yeah, because...
So she might remember, but he might not.
No, he should, because the latest incarnation remembers the adventure. That's how it works.
Yeah, this is true. So he should
remember, and she should remember too, because the time skip companions remembered. Because Big Finish also talk about this in An Earthly Child, where she's like, I haven't seen your grandfather since the Dark Tower, and he's like, better writing is our Big Finish, and then that was canonically what they say in that story. It's pretty great. Okay, a little bit of self-advertising.
The writers didn't remember that.
That happened, which is funny because in the Confidential it shows a scene from the 5 Doctors, which was great because Confidential remembered. So she's like,
well, I guess and even then that wouldn't make sense because the War Doctor happened, so it would be even more than.
But the War Doctor didn't happen yet because it was 2006, and Russell T was like, it'd be really dumb to come up with a middle Doctor for no reason when in marketing said the 9th life of the Doctor was Christopher Eccleston in all marketing because I'm not a complete idiot. I make some dumb choices story-wise, but I'm not a complete idiot. And then he rubbed maple syrup on himself and rolled off the camera.
Exactly what happened.
It's true. It's canonical truth. So the Doctor's like, hey, by the way, Sarah Jane, everyone died after I left you. I was like, no, Doctor, they happened literally hundreds of years later for you.
Yeah, hundreds of years later.
She's like, why didn't you... And she's like, hey... Why didn't you come back? And I'm like, did anybody actually watch The Hand of Fear?
Did anybody watch that? Considering you asked to leave?
Yeah, in The Hand of Fear, she said, I want to go home. And the Doctor was like, cool, I'm going to take you home because I need to go back to Gallifrey. And so I'm like, did anybody watch The Hand of Fear? That story didn't go missing, all right? Just go rent a VHS of it, watch it, and be like, oh, she wanted to leave. And the Doctor needed to leave her because the Deadly Assassin needed to happen, which is one of the greatest stories of all time.
Exactly.
And he was like, I need to go, Sarah, because Mary Whithouse needs a reason to hate this show for the next 2 decades. And she's like, oh, okay. It's like, ha ha, Sarah Jane. And then they say goodbye to each other. And she goes, oh, don't forget me, Doctor. No, Sarah Jane. Don't you forget me. And then she smiles, gets left in Aberdeen, and then that's it. Even though it's meant to be Croydon. So because of that
part.
because of that, this story canonically makes no sense, and it's really frustrating because they continue to have this narrative of something that didn't take place. So then Mickey screams, and Sarah's like, oh my god, it's just like the old times, and they run off, and they're like, hey, what's wrong? And Rose is like, hey, I'm here too. And it's like, oh, so you're the chip for this episode. And then they go to Mickey, and Mickey's like, hey, I'm Mickey. And the Doctor's like,
I'm supposed to be the chip for this episode.
Yeah. And then the Doctor's like making fun of him and like, oh, I'm seeing a girl with pigtails and stuff. And I'm like, but aren't Time Lords meant to be above this stuff? But it's all right. It's okay.
No, he's just doing it for the lulz.
Yeah, he's doing it for the lulz, I suppose. You know, just if this episode had come out like now, could you imagine the social justice backlash for that one line?
Yeah.
Whoa.
For calling him a girl.
Yeah, and I'm just like, so even I was like, and I'm not even in that spectrum, and I was just like, whoa, why did he say that? That was weird.
It was really unnecessary.
Yeah, it was tactless. You know. So
the Doctor.
Yeah. So Sarah Jane and Rose start bickering. Yeah, exactly. The oncoming storm. So Rose and Sarah start bickering, And then Mickey's like, oh, the missus and the ex, everybody's worst nightmare. But the thing is that, so if you watch classic Who, you'll know the Doctor's not sexual with his companions.
Yeah.
At all.
And especially not with Sarah Jane Smith.
Yeah, because Sarah Jane, like a number of his companions.
Sarah Jane particularly met him when he was an old man.
Yeah.
Older man. So she's probably not interested in, like, the slightest.
But not only that, is there's, like, Sarah was legit above all that shit. And, like, when she was traveling with Harry, and she was like, Harry, if you start treating me like a little girl, I'm going to knock you out. And Harry's like, oh, sorry, old. And she looks at him, and Harry's like, you probably could knock me out. Sarah, throughout their relationship, that being one of friendship only, was very much the little sister. And she was just... there was no sexual action at all.
Yeah. Like, it's not... There was no relationship like that. Like, I can understand, like, the loving relationship, but, like, it's like a... What's the word? It's like a chest loving relationship, you know? Like, there's no like anything else going on.
It's just purely familial.
Yeah, like they have a love for each other, but it's not like that kind of love. It's like a family love.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just as soon as this interaction starts, the episode just gets progressively worse, and it's annoying because, like, Anthony Head is here, and, like, it's Anthony Head, man. Like,
it's Anthony Head, and he does not deserve this at all.
Oh man, and he's giving his all, man.
He doesn't deserve the story either. Like, none of the random crap that's going on with the characters, sure, whatever. That's just expected at this point. But the bad story elements that Anthony has to deal with, that's not fair on him at all.
Man. And it's funny because, like, when you watch the confidentials, he's just, like, taking the piss out of the entire thing. And he's like, yeah, my character's just, you know, he's just a bad dude. And he doesn't seem to like the Doctor. But we've just been having a gas, eh? And I'm just like, Anthony is purely here just to not be at home today. Like, he's just for something to do because he's Anthony Head and amazing. And he's like, look, I'm Anthony Head. And that's it. And it's just like, oh, man. And watching the confidential made me just even more furious because people have said to me that, like, actually to my face in person at cons, that school reunion, they're not talking about it like she's his ex, even though it's explicitly said. But when you watch the confidentials, Russell T Davies says, I told Toby to write it like Sex in the City, Samantha, and whatever the hell Jessica Parker's character is, says, Carrie and Samantha like the same man, and I want them to be fighting like Carrie and Samantha over the same man. And Toby was like, Russell said to me, you know, he really wanted this tension of, you know, them fighting after a past love. And I really brought that to the script. And then I just thought to myself, Toby, I wish you didn't bring that to the script. In fact, I wish you brought arsenic and fed that to the script. And then you sat there and watched it hurl up its innards until it no longer existed. That's what I wanted you to bring to this script, Toby. And then he didn't reply to me because he was a recorded video from 2005. And it wasn't possible. And that was sad. And so like when people, you know, I was thinking back to all these people that tried the Defense School reunion and then watching the confidential and just been like, you're wrong, because the legitimate intent from the creative leads of this story was she's the ex-girlfriend. Please just watch Hand of Fear.
That's all you needed to watch. Like, you didn't even have to go back and watch the entirety of her run, mainly because I'm sure Elizabeth would have, you know, remembered the character and been able to just portray it as expected. But you just go back and watch Hand of Fear, understand the leaving that happened, and then it would have been perfectly clear. Yeah. For extra credit, you could have watched that episode of the original Sarah Jane Smith adventures, basically, and just gone from there, basically.
Oh, with Canon.
Exactly.
Canon. Here's the thing, throughout the story, Sarah constantly talks, because they go to this calf, they like escape the school, go to a calf, and they fix K9, which was great because he wasn't suffering from Leitonitis, which I was legit worried about when I watched this originally. I was like, please,
that it was going to be the other,
to be the other guy, because like John Leeson, you know, he had a bittersweet time on Who, and fair enough, they weren't treating him well, and it was annoying because he was the voice of their most marketable icon. And so, you know, because you mentioned that Disney didn't treat Wayne Allwine well, like, wow, that would have been weird. So when him coming back, that really was like sort of like lighten the punch to the face that I've been getting repeatedly throughout the story. Because John Leeson was great. And the Confidentials, he was like, I wasn't even on set. So what's really going to annoy me is when I go to conventions, they're going to be like, what was it like working with David Tennant? And I'll tell them I never worked with them because I was in a studio instead of on set. And it's crazy that Confidential left that scene there in, bro, because he looks livid.
So funny.
I was like, whoa. Like you have to watch that. Just that one segment of Confidential with John Leeson. It's uncomfortable because he is livid.
Because he's actually mad.
Yeah. And the Confidential just left it in. I was like, whoa. It's like how they left all the stuff of like Chris Eccleston saying, I hate working for Doctor Who in Confidential. I was like, whoa, you guys have some big
did he
knackers.
actually say that in the Confidential?
Oh, dude.
Wow.
Okay, so he doesn't say exactly that, but he says, my time on Who hasn't been great, and that's why I'm leaving.
I see.
And I was just like, whoa. Whoa, Confidential leaving that in. So John Leeson's like whatever,
well,
but
it's Confidential.
I suppose. And Liz Sladen originally was going to turn it down.
Fair.
And the only reason she stayed on
the
board,
script that they had,
she was like, and because they thought she says even in Confidential, she thought they were taking the mick.
Yeah.
And she used that as exact terminology, and she was like, I really don't want to be in it. But then they were, apparently I can't recall what they said, but apparently they changed their mind at having coffee. It was her and Russell, Russell and Phil Collinson.
Russell was probably like, we could probably talk the BBC into giving you
your own show,
get the actual show that you were supposed to have originally.
Yeah. And it's great because like
actually, it was probably Liz who was like, if you can get me this, then I'll be in your episode.
It's funny because like Liz Sladen actually was quite well known for disliking science fiction as a genre, but it's funny because like her career is almost like defined by science fiction, so it's quite interesting. But during the K9 scene, she talks about how she couldn't move on after leaving the Doctor. In multiple stuff. The thing is, Virgin novels.
We have an episode where she moved on straight away.
Exactly.
You don't even need to talk about the novels.
Yeah, the novels, K9 and Company, the Five Doctors. Like she's moved on. In the Five Doctors, she literally says to the Third Doctor, "Take me home. I'm sick of all this stuff. Like I'm over it." Like
I literally wanted to leave. Like, what are you doing? You just kidnapped me from my house. No, I didn't.
No. That was Barusa.
If you listened to K9, you would have stayed home.
yeah, exactly. Because K9's like, "Don't go, mistress." And she's like, "K9, it's England. What could happen?" It's not like the entire classic Who and New Who run happens here. So she's like affirmative. But not only that, Big Finish, which BBC has given them the license to make official media, right? Before New Who came out, they did a Sarah Jane Smith run, where she's an investigative journalist taking down like evil all over the show. And so like when she's in this and she's like, my life didn't move on in the 30 years since I traveled with you. Yeah. Please just watch Hand of Fear. That's all you need to do. Yeah, that one story. You needed to do. It's strange to me because like they made this show as a sequel, right? This is the revival. It is what comes after Classic Who. Yeah. Why is Sarah not even the same person? It's peculiar.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
I just 15. Okay. Oh no, it was 17. 17 years after Carol Ann Ford's character of Susan leaves the TARDIS and comes back for the Five Doctors, she's still irrefutably Susan. Yeah. So, just, man, it's stuff like this where I'm just like, I wish JNT wasn't dead. Like, so bad. I so wish he wasn't dead, because he would have been like, no.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we find that, actually, this is a positive. I've got a positive. Okay, the positive I've got is, with the Blu-ray remasters, the Krillitane do look a lot better than they did in the original broadcast release.
No.
Right?
But they don't look good.
So they don't look good, but they look better. Because if you go back and you watch the original release, I know it's easy to have a go because it's still awful. It is still awful.
It's terrible.
And really should have been handled.
Here's the thing that gets me though, is that Anthony just came off of working from Buffy, right, for this. So, and every single monster that they would have faced, and that they did face in Buffy, were never really ever CG. CG was only used for transitional scenes for the vampires in particular. So from him going from working with actual people most of the time, and then suddenly they're like, "Oh, we're just gonna put the monsters in post."
Yeah,
he would have been like, "What?
Yeah,
that's dumb."
And you can it's palpable.
I've seen the CG. No,
dude, it's so palpable in the Confidential. Like, he's just like, why? Why am I here?
Why did you hire me for this crap?
And it's because he gives it 110%, man. Like,
he does,
even though he clearly thinks it sucks, he gives it his all. Like that scene where he's like, and it sounds like a monster, and also it's like, wow, and like even his like facial features and stuff.
It's because he's a fantastic actor.
Yeah, he is. Like, I love him as the Prime Minister in Little Britain. It's great. And I love even more is the voice actor for my favorite video game character plays the American president in Little Britain. So that's always stayed with me as like a bonus. But he's carrying the entire villain side because they're not actually on set.
No, they're not. And
as we talked about with...
And even the ones that are... they're not doing a good job.
Yeah. No, those extras don't even care. They're like, I'm literally here for the 20p you promised me. So it's pretty bad. The thing is this calls back to what we were talking about with the multi-wave lichen form. I'm only saying that because I hate it.
Stop calling it that, please.
The dumb werewolf episode is CG takes you out. It just does. It does. Right? Because our brain will tell us that isn't them, and it will kick us out.
There's no way that you're at the level of CG where you can pull it off.
Exactly. So, much like with the werewolf, much like the werewolf, that we really should have been like Alien. You know, you see it, but you don't see it. Like, it's never direct. The shadows, little prosthesis killing people, like the tail that killed the other female lead in the original Alien film. So that should have been utilized, because having the scary bat monsters that aren't scary
at all
on screen really weakens the punch. And the thing is, I think, because like Doctor Who's a family show, which they've been struggling to keep family orientated this entire run so far, with it being a family show, they were probably like, it's for the kids won't see it as bad, right? The thing is, though, they will. All right? Yeah, exactly. They will. I don't know why people have this idea that like children are just inept, but that isn't the case.
No, not at all.
So, I don't know. This episode is a mess, and I don't know who it's for. No.
That's basically like a lot of the most recent episodes that we've been watching. This is that their demographic is off. It's not for kids. It's not for Whovian fans. It's not like original Whovians. It's not even for the current real audience either. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And having Anthony Woodhead in there would have brought in a bunch of of Buffy fans, American television watchers.
Yeah.
And they would have been like, what is this crap?
Yeah. Because even Buffy did practical.
Exactly. Buffy did a whole lot of practical
and Buffy had a smaller budget.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very small budget. But here's the other thing, is that so Anthony has done other bad guys, right? Like in other forms of it. You've got him coming in and being a bad guy in a school, right? In Britain. Why is it like this? Why is it like this at all? Why have you done this?
Yeah, these are good questions.
It's like, instead of doing the werewolf episode, why didn't you do a vampire episode? Make it this one with Anthony being a vampire. Because it would have made people go, lol, that's amazing.
That's true. But here's the thing, right? Much like with the werewolf episode, Classic Who had vampires.
Yeah.
Would they have handled it properly?
I don't think they would have, but I think it would have been funnier.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, there would have been some lol value.
Yeah. I agree. Because it's just so frustrating because, like, I agree the show needs to evolve, but if you're going to do what this episode is, which is hearkening to the past, get the past right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just get it right.
Like, there was no... You were... The thing about having Sarah Jane in there is because even so, right, having her in there was meant... The way that they did it, the way they put her in there was not, like... is not introducing a new character. They had her show up, they had her say her name, like they had a couple of like close-ups on her to show that it's really Elizabeth and showing off in this episode, but yet they're trying to make it seem like they are showing her off from being from the previous stuff, showing current viewers who would watch the previous episode that they've got her back, but then they just don't actually have her. Like, that's the thing. Like, you've gone as far as to say, hey, look, we've got Elizabeth Sladen back, but we don't have Sarah Jane Smith. Like,
yeah, that's how it feels.
The point? It doesn't make any sense to do that. It really doesn't. Like, I understand wanting to have like previous characters come back, or having previous actors come back and play parts, because that's fine. That's also a reasonable way to appease an audience. Yes. But to have them come back and say this is the character and then not actually have them be the character, what are you doing? That's not it at all.
It's not even close to correct.
No. Like, it would have been better to have her come back and just be an extra than to have her come back and be this. Yeah.
The thing is that Liz said she'd turn it down if she was just going to be in the background.
Yeah.
In the confidential as well.
Yeah. It's absolutely fair on her to not want to come back for that, because it's not a reasonable thing to do as an actress. But it's not fair that she came back and wasn't Elizabeth, wasn't properly Sarah Jane Smith. Like, that's it. She just isn't her in this episode, and it doesn't make any sense. Like, why?
I think
why at all?
Your earlier suggestion of her being a different character, I think would have been great, because I mean, like, that's how you'd handle actors getting older in an anniversary special. Say you're celebrating the past 50 years or something.
I mean, I don't know. In an anniversary special, I don't really care whether or not they're old or not. But hey, the point is that her coming back and not being Sarah Jane Smith would have been possible if she was someone else in the cast, like proper, like reasonable amounts. Like if she and Anthony had been like the twin bad guys.
Oh my god, yes.
Yeah, and this is like in the world of them being vampires again. And that would have been even more amazing, is to have her be Sarah Jane Smith but evil. Like, that would have been fantastic. Because then she could be like,
if they got the vampires
I'm Sarah Jane Smith, and the doctor would have been like, oh no, Sarah Jane Smith's been turned into a vampire. No. Significantly better. Yeah. Because then it also would have been like the doctor, like the later doctor, realizing that one of his companions has finally become like proper bad, especially in his eyes. Even though she could be like, us vampires, we're not so bad, you know, we're not so bad. But he'd be like, no, I have a racial thing about that.
Yeah. We're above racism. Unless you're vampires, you dirty bastard. It's like when, oh man, I can't wait for us to do the monthly range, the Twilight arc. Oh.
Here we go.
But before the books were written, it was actually...
You're talking about way better episodes.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. It's just like, you know, I don't want to be angry at Doctor Who, man. I love Doctor Who. This is now our 3rd year of running this podcast. I don't want to be angry at Doctor Who, man, but it's so hard not to be, because this is awful. This is
the point in which we have to be, though.
Yeah.
Basically. We're finally caught up. We have to be angry about it.
Yeah. If it was good, I wouldn't be angry, but it isn't good. Yeah, I'm really hoping.
Thing is, I wouldn't even be angry if it was just possible, but it is not.
Yeah.
Like, I would have been fine with it being terribly, terribly written, but so long as it actually like catered to what it used to be, not even if it did it well, just needed to actually know who it was writing, then I would have been okay with it. Like, it could have been the most campy, like preachy sort of thing ever, but so long as it got the Doctor and the other characters right, I wouldn't be so angry about it. I really wouldn't. And I imagine many other Whovians wouldn't be as angry about it as well. You know?
So, I've just realised we've spent 20 minutes not actually talking about what happened in this episode, and I love that.
Yes.
But I'm going to wrap this up really quickly because I want to go on to the next one and then into part B, where I can be happy again. Basically the Krillitane have been feeding kids fatty foods, and it hasn't been making them fat, and it's been actually making them really, really intelligent. And I suppose the fat was because their brains are working overtime that needed an energy to burn.
Well, it was apparently their natural oils of the Krillitane, as in, like, you know,
the bad people.
Yeah, I was trying to. There's actually a type of oil that's like sounds kind of like Krillitane. That's why I was like pausing there for a moment. Yeah. But anyway,
is this if you put it in your teeth?
I think so. There's something like that. But anyway, the point is that they were using their own special oil that they've somehow become allergic to as well. But they produce it. I'm not really sure what they were going with there, but
I think anyway, it was once produced by them.
Yeah, that's
one state, because how their evolution works is they evolve by eating other races.
Yeah, and becoming that. So, but yeah, either way, the point is that human children eat it and they become more intelligent. And yeah, you can carry on from there.
So they're becoming more intelligent. Rose sees someone die because of it. And they're like, I think this is why I didn't talk about it. That scene pisses me off.
What?
Because the lady's screaming, and the lunch lady just says she does that, and leaves it at that. Any human being, and by any human being I mean not Rose Tyler, so if Mickey was in that situation, would have been straight call the cops.
Yeah.
Or, just get the doctor to get investigated now. Because, that scene was so dumb. I hated that scene. That scene almost made me just, click out of the episode and just leave. Just astral project into the matrix of Gallifrey and just go live there for the rest of my remaining life.
Just, stop the world, I'm getting off.
Yeah.
That sort of deal, you know?
And so throughout the story, the Doctor's trying to figure out what they're doing with the Krillitane. He finds out they're using children to be the supercomputer to write the universe code. I'm not too sure how really underpowered computers on Earth could rewrite the universe. You're like that Cyberman in the Silver Turk with Mary Shelley. Yeah. Again, a better story.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I want to listen to that story again. Oh, Mary Shelley's run was so good.
We're getting off course again.
I know, I'm so sorry.
Good stories. But yeah, just no. Yeah. I don't know why they would think that that's a good idea. It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. You can be whatever sci-fi story you like, but that's not smart thinking at all. It's
but I mean, these new kids and their newfangled Doctor Who, they don't need the science in their science fiction. No, but they just need the fiction, Harriet Skelly.
The thing is that it's the sad thing is that it's kind of there's just no good way of putting this. Basically, it kind of works in the sense that yes, the universe does run on math. And you could, in theory, have an equation that this is the idea of general relativity in general is you have an equation that can be used in place of anything to state basically that all universal properties are encapsulated by it and everything works in a math equation. It would be a very big equation, and it would have lots of little letters that you wouldn't really know what's going on with. But anyone in a scientific way would be able to look at it and be like, okay, cool. So we can plug in any number into these other things and then work out the rest of them, basically. So that's the idea of a proper relative theory, is that you can work out any other constant of the universe if you figure out one, basically. That's the idea of a full scientific query. But the thing is that having a bunch of supercomputers, even proper, human supercomputers, not school computers,
yeah,
and then having a bunch of scientists working on it and a bunch of children with super powered stuff going on in their brains, probably still wouldn't really work it out. Not simply because it's hard for them to figure out with that sort of stuff, but because you actually have to test these things to figure them out. Like there's no real good way to do that without testing things. And even then, once you've got this full equation, right? You've got a full set of equations of how exactly the universe works based on this math. That won't make you a god having that.
Yeah.
Like we have a very broad understanding of general relativity. That doesn't mean that we can control gravity or anything like that. Just because we know how these things work.
I thought gravity wasn't real. The Flat Earth forums told me.
Anyway, instead of going into that sort of science fiction,
which it is fiction, by the way.
Yes,
people.
Yes. The point is that doesn't work in any sense of the word, and it's pure magic. Pure magic is what they're trying to pull off there, and having it be pure magic is fine, so long as you run with that, like Seven did.
Yeah,
it's pure magic.
It is magic.
Yeah. If you try to say that these aliens are like, they devour people and they become cool, like they evolve because of that, that's fine. That's kind of pseudoscience-y. But you say, hey, we're just trying to figure out the magic code that unlocks the universe, and the Doctor probably would have been like, the Time Lord's already figured that out.
Yeah. Right?
That's basically what should have happened at that point.
Yeah, because Rassilon did it.
Yeah, Rassilon was capable of controlling time itself, right?
That's, and he pushed any competition into a completely different universe he made.
He did, in fact, yes.
And those stories came out before New Who started, so...
But basically the idea is that Rassilon would have had this ability in general anyway, that the Cradletans are trying to achieve. But even then, he is not all powerful, like godly. He's got a whole lot of power. Sure, he can control time. He is truly immortal, but is obviously trapped in another universe. But he didn't have the full capability of just like fixing anything in the universe that he wanted to, because he didn't. He didn't just completely annihilate all vampire kind. They still exist in some parts of the universe. So,
well, they ran away to E-Space. They literally ran to another universe to get away from the guy who could control the universe. Yeah,
but he didn't have like full on ultimate power, because he still had some things to fight, like the what's his face? Zagreus, and there's anti-time stuff, and the other people in the universe he got trapped in.
Yeah,
he still had things.
So much.
Yeah, exactly. He still had a whole lot of other things to fight. So, in theory, the Rassilon's already achieved this, but it's not that great. So that's what the Doctor should have really said. He should have been like, "Our people actually already figured that out, and it's not as great as you think."
Yeah,
and then he probably would have been like, "Oh, I'll just leave now."
Must return to center.
But as I said before, this episode would have been significantly better if they were just vampires.
Yeah,
get rid of the werewolf.
Yeah,
and do a vampire story instead.
Oh man, especially like when the Doctor discovers, like the Doctor and Romana, when they discover that they are vampires in the E-Space story, like. It's earth-shattering for them.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it would have been really cool, because like the Doctor fought a time war, his people are gone, he is literally the only person that can stop them.
Yeah, exactly. That he would be like, oh no, like actual vampires.
Where would the Great Other live?
Well, I don't know, somewhere. But that's.
Ooh, he could be in the Thames or something.
Well, they could be vampires without that as well. Like that, they could be.
Oh, they could
like
be
lost.
maybe experiments from
Like,
Big Finish's
yeah.
Twilight arc. Oh, yeah,
Exactly.
bit of stories.
Bit of stories, more again. But yeah, they could have given any number of reasons as to why they were vampires. But just having Anthony be a vampire would have been fantastic. Would have been such an in joke. Having Sarah Jane be like, vampires, Doctor, and then that's crazy talk, and he would have been like, lol, Sarah Jane's.
So remember that time we saw a giant vampiric bug and it nearly wiped out what was left of mankind? Ha ha, Tom Baker.
Exactly.
But this bit of stories again.
And then it would have been fantastic. It would have given some more depth to the Time Lords as well, where he could have been like, we fought them before. I fought them before lots of times. The Time Lords were around to stop them, and now that I've killed them all, I didn't realize that they were to get out and now infect the universe again. And that would have also been a fantastic, this would have been so much
more survivor's guilt. Because later, especially in Series 4, they really pushed that survival guilt mentality for the Doctor, especially this incarnation. Yeah. So, I mean, we could have had it start here. That's actually a great idea. Oh, that's so much better. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap this up real quick because we're moving to the next story. K9, he's like, my powers are drained, must return. Which, again, was a bit of story. And so he's all like, hey, look, I'm drained. I'm gonna blow myself up. Just get everybody out of the school. I'll blow myself up. And Mickey's like, I'm still in the story too, guys. And I'm in the story for the ending. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. So Mickey gets the kids out. The Doctor, Rose, and Sarah run around together because New Who thinks that's what people should do. And they run out, and K9's like, I'm going to blow myself up. And then Anthony Head's like, you're a very bad dog. And K9's just like, affirmative.
Yeah.
Best scene in the entire story.
At least someone remembered how it was supposed to be.
Yeah, because K9 is the sass machine. That's why he exists. But I just love it. You're a bad dog. Affirmative.
Yeah, that's absolutely something that would have been said in Classic Who.
Yeah,
actually.
exactly.
Is that he would have, absolutely.
You never know the effing answer when it's important, Tom Baker. So they gap it. And then Sarah's like, oh, I'm sad about the dog, even though it's been established that it hasn't worked for ages. Even though it worked and won't finish. And the Doctor's like, oh, don't worry. Hey, look, I'm going to leave you with the dog. And she's like, oh, cool, I'm going to go have my other show. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to covering that because I thoroughly enjoy the Sarah Jane Adventures, and not just because it's got Sarah Jane in it, but also because it was written for the audience it was intended for. It's a kids show that handles some heavy themes, but still not too heavy for children. It's actually fantastic. So Sarah's left with the dog. Mickey's now a part of the TARDIS, and okay, Rose gets really, really angry when he wants to be part of the TARDIS.
She gets full on childish,
and that doesn't make any sense.
Like a 7-year-old not getting what she wants.
It doesn't make any sense because they established in Series 1, right, in Boomtown, the Doctor was like, I'm completely comfortable with traveling with you and Mickey, right? Yeah. In Boomtown, and also there was a story beforehand, I can't remember, I think it was the Farting Aliens one, might have had that as well, is that the Doctor's totally open to the idea of traveling with Mickey, right? Yeah. And Rose in Boomtown is okay with it.
Yeah, like Rose wants Mickey to come.
Yeah.
Mickey tells the Doctor to basically cover for him and not let him go.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, no.
It doesn't make any sense. It's a complete character shift with no explanation.
Yeah. The thing is that they're trying to pull it off as she's obviously the whole X thing. That they're still trying to say that she's still trying to say in not subtext that she and the Doctor have a thing, even though in subtext the Doctor full on hates her. It still doesn't make any sense. Other than she doesn't want her boyfriend along for the ride, that she wants just to be alone with the Doctor, which still doesn't make any sense because the Doctor is basically abusing her at this point in his current condition, where he just sends her into all these dangerous situations and just lets her just get into trouble. So I don't know. It's weird.
I'm perplexed. That final scene doesn't make any sense from a character point of view, because the characters have established they want the situation that's happening to be the situation that's happening. That has been established. I don't understand. Right? I just like, I've actually got like a pain in my brow.
But I mean, other than that, the ending is interesting. That Sarah ends up deciding not to go with them, even though
oh my god,
even though
Sarah
the
Jane
doctor
coming
asks
back as a companion, yes.
Yeah, but anyway, she decides not to come with them because the point being that when she says she didn't move on in the beginning, she eventually moves on by the end. And the thing is that doesn't, you've basically just left her character where it was before, where she didn't want to go anymore. You know?
Yeah, they were like, hey, let's just write the Hand of Fear. And Toby and Russell looked at each other.
Just write it again.
Yeah, and they were like, what's the Hand of Fear? And then J&T's ghost just disappeared. And they were like, whoa, who was that? Who was that?
Exactly.
And then William Hartnell's ghost scissor kicked them in the teeth, and then he disappeared too. Like, make sure your successor doesn't turn me into a sexist asshole. William Hartnell. And then he disappeared.
Yeah.
So
scissor kick him as well. But anyway, that's the end of the terrible reunion. Yeah.
So, we're on to the girl in the fireplace. We've got Harriet Skelly taking over. I just need...
You need a break?
Yeah, I just need to chill for a bit. Okay. Alright. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
I will start.
Yes, please.
So, the girl in the fireplace. Yes. This is a story. So, we start off where we left off. Or at least I think that's where we left off. They like have a talk about China.
Yeah,
I don't think they actually went there because Mickey says first try we got a spaceship. So I don't know what they were trying to pull off there. Trying to say that they went to China but didn't go to China. I don't know. Anyway, they're on a spaceship.
What they want to be referencing is Marco Polo, a better story.
Another better story.
Yeah.
Yes. But anyway, so they're on a spaceship. In the middle of space. The prequel shows that does not the prequel. The trailer for this basically shows that a ship has hidden ions. Didn't get pulled into another dimension like Star Trek, but instead they have some severe
Star
damage.
Trek. It's almost like you're referencing science fiction against our fantasy show.
Anyway, they get damaged and then they freak out about stuff. And in the trailer does this really well, where they don't show the bad guy, right? And even in the episode, they don't show the bad guy for a long time. They try to pull off this really long suspense into showing what's going on here. The problem with that is that the last episode had a next time on Doctor Who happened in it, so everybody already knew what was going on. I don't even know if they I feel I didn't watch it again, the to be continued, because I was literally about to watch the episode, but I feel like they from memory that they also gave away the fact that the ship was called Madame de Pompadour as well.
Yeah,
so I think they gave away the whole thing in the trailer. So what was the point of making...
Yeah, he literally says in the next time trailer, why is a spaceship from the 51st century connected to a French aristocrat in this 18th? And I'm like, cool.
Then, they gave away basically the whole story in the trailer. So, I mean, I feel like it may have also been Russell stopping Moffat from writing his story again, because showing him up.
Because series 1, the highest rated story was Moffat's.
Exactly, and I feel like it was again, because this one is actually not terrible, honestly.
I agree, it's not terrible.
Yeah. So yeah, it starts off with landing on the ship. They're trying to figure out what's going on. There's a fireplace just randomly. They're like, what's this fireplace doing here? It's one of those two-way fireplaces that spins around. It's really cool. I wish they'd use them more. Anyway, definitely going to have a house with one. Anyway, the point is that I'm trying to make out here is that on one side is 18th century France, and other side is the spaceship in what year did they say it was?
I can't remember, but it's the 51st century, so
yeah, something like that. So the doctor meets this young girl on the other side of the fireplace, and when he leans down to take a look at the fire, she's all like, "What are you doing in my fireplace?" And he's all like, "I'm the fireplace inspector." Yeah, that's a thing, right?
Especially in the 18th century.
Yeah, she just rolls with it. And then a couple of months later, he comes spinning through the door, through the fireplace and into a bedroom, trying to figure out what's going on. She's asleep, and he's just like, "Hey, what's up?" And she's like, What are you doing here? What are you doing in my bedroom? That's weird." And he's like, "Oh, I was just in your fireplace." And she's like, that was weeks ago." And he's like, "Oh, okay, this is a bit weird. I am doing some weird stuff right now." And then he notices that the clock is broken, but there's still ticking going on. Sometimes, clocks, when their faces are smashed, still tick, but, that's another thing altogether. He finds that there is a clockwork man in the room with them, which is totally given away by the next time on Doctor Who, by the way. But anyway, don't want to continue to bash on that. The design of the clockwork people is fantastic. Yeah, it really is. Like the idea
it's practical.
That, yeah, it's so practical as well. It's fantastic, but not even that like. It would be pretty hard to pull off a CG clockwork machine anyway, but especially back then.
It's like it would have been really hard to pull off a convincing werewolf in CG.
It really would have. But anyway, I love the fact that like that the way that they got away with that again is to have basically people in suits with like the people in French garb, but with a mask, like a full mask on, so they could pull it off really well, and then just like have one of the clockwork droids like be exposed just the head, so you can see just some clockwork going on. It's a really nice use of story to prop, so that you don't have to do CG. Hey,
it's perfect because like it completely fits the time period. So I'm just like,
it does, and it fits it well. It's also like, yeah, it sells itself really well to being like futuristic clockwork people, but having them back in 18th century, they also like the clockwork idea works as well, like a sort of like steamy punk sort of deal. It's really nice. Yeah, Moffat, you wrote fantastic single stories. Why couldn't you write a better proper series? Anyway,
well, I mean, series 5 is alright.
Yeah, it was alright, but 50th.
Oh, dude.
Anyway, so we continue on from there. I think we'll just go with through Pompadour's life instead. It's probably an easier way to go about it. So from her perspective, he leaves with this clockwork person after basically saving her from a nightmare. So kind of settles into her mind a bunch. So several years later, he's just there in her bedroom again. She's like late teens now, I think. So she's very very keen. I feel like this is also like basically it was at this point that I realized that this is sort of a what's the word, a prototype for Amy Pond.
Yeah,
basically.
No, I agree. The girl who waited is the girl in the fireplace.
Yeah. It is very much the case. So but at the same time, the story works, and it works well for Doctor Who, particularly when you've got a sexualized Doctor going on as well. But anyway,
because why I love 11, he's like, no, ooh.
Exactly, that makes so much more sense. But anyway, the sexualized Doctor works. It makes the story like flow very well on its own with that feel, because when she's
in the confidential for this, it feels like it's heavily implied the sexuality of it is all Russell's doing.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Because in the read as well, Moffat does not look comfortable at all. It shows them at a script reading, and I'm just like, ooh. It is palpable.
That's great. But yeah, I feel like the sexualization makes it flow very well, because the relationship between the Doctor and Madame de Pompadour makes more sense as well. Considering that she was a proper female character because of that as well. If she hadn't been towards the Doctor, then it would have been a little bit weirder, honestly. It's the same as Amy Pond, is that she wants to be sexual with him, but he doesn't reciprocate because he's proper back to being the Doctor.
Yeah.
But it still works with Ten being kind of interested in that, at least in the sense that he is amused by the whole idea more than he is actually into it, sort of deal, you know, where he's like, I just snogged Madame de Pompadour, and he doesn't really care about that afterwards. But anyway, the point is that she totally gets it on with him in her bedroom as she's about to leave, because, you know, she's basically imagined him her entire life because of him showing up and saving her from a nightmare, which is fair. So that happens, and then several years later, when she's getting the goods with the King of France, and talking to someone who I'm glad that they just put another extra in for her to talk to. It's interesting because it's not really like French of the time sort of deal, but you know, it does not mention it all later, so it works. But you know, there's no way that sort of conversation would have happened with a lady of that kind, but you know, it works. And that's where the Doctor is hiding behind her. She kind of realizes, but not really at the same time. But then, you know, he runs off, and then continue on until she is finally with the prince. Well, the first time she meets the prince at the castle. I'm guessing in his royal castle sort of deal.
Yeah, I think it's Versailles.
Yeah, in Versailles. And he's meets her. They do the little dance that they do as royals and fanciful people, and she's like, you know, checking her makeup in the mirror, and then the Clockwork Person shows up, and the Doctor comes out of the mirror, and she's just like, "Whoa, this is crazy." Yeah, of course. So he saves her again, and he realizes that he needs to try to figure out why they're stalking her, basically. The Clockwork Person, I guess, because it kind of looks like a lady as well, teleports away, and the Doctor says, "Hey, Rose, Mickey, can you get out of here while I get my groove on? Find the Clockwork Person, see where they've gone." And they're like, "Cool, whatevs." And then he does a mind meld with her, a Vulcan mind meld, instead of contact, because contact would have been way easier. Don't know why he does the Vulcan mind meld instead.
But I found New Who uses that as contact. That's what contact looks like for New Who, because he does it for Donna as well. That's what, I don't know why, because like contact in Classic Who is way easier. Close your eyes, concentrate, cool information. Yeah,
but instead he's just going to get touchy and feely about it. I don't know
exactly,
why. Because I guess it's just a thematic thing more than anything else.
I love how like Eleven's forgotten how to use it properly as well. When he smashes his head,
bashes his head
and he's like, "Sweet, that's how contact works." I'm like, "No, it's not," but I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's just it. Is that they just got to have different Doctors have different feelings about how contact should work. So
yeah, I love how all the classic Doctors are just close eyes, meld, but every Doctor after the war is just like, whatever.
Let's just touch people. It's called contact, right? Anyway, so he goes into her brain with the Vulcan mind meld. She's just like, "Lol, you didn't say contact, so this is a Vulcan mind meld. I'm going to get inside your brain too." And he's like, "Man, I really just should have said contact, shouldn't I? Damn." Anyway, she's in his brain. She finds out that he's a Time Lord and that apparently he had a lonely childhood. Not sure how that worked.
Yeah, you had a lonely childhood, even though it's established you went to school with heaps of other children.
You had a lot of friends, and your family was actually kind of nice until they sent you to the schism. But hey, lonely childhood, hey. Yeah. Although we do kind of also get references to that with the Third Doctor, where he's not like having the best childhood.
Yeah,
not necessarily like, you know, not necessarily lonely. I don't know. Anyway,
especially when he goes to see the Hermit. Oh my God, the Third Doctor.
Exactly. So
I love you so much, Job.
But anyway, I'm guessing that she gets a very small glimpse into his life, so that's because she's, you know, a human mind. I don't imagine that she would be able to contain the whole thing. Gets a small glimpse into his life. For some reason, she doesn't get his actual real name. Instead, she just calls him the Doctor still. So I don't know how that works. I'm guessing he's like closed that off in a lot of different ways as well. But hey,
it's interesting because like, I know that's been the big secret, right, from Doctor Who's inception. I mean, who really is he? But You know, the other renegades call themselves the something just because they're renegades.
Yeah. But even then, we don't know the master's real name either. So,
yeah, I wonder what Koshay's real name is.
Anyway, the point is that she even says the thing, Doctor Who. So, that's basically the point.
And then Ian walks in and is like, Chesterton! Because he was the first person to ask it.
So she talks him into staying a while and having a party. They have a party. Meanwhile, Rose and Mickey get captured because they're just in there for that point at this point in the story. That's basically the whole reason for them to be there at all. Because Moffat just didn't know how to deal with their terrible
I love how he just removed them from the story.
Yeah, he's just like, you're not in the story anymore. Gets them kidnapped by the Clockwork people, who for some reason just drug them and then bring them to a table instead of just like chopping them up. I don't know. I guess they were kind of humane about it. But anyway, they're like, you'll be used for parts. We don't know why we're telling you this, mainly just to save time. And then the Doctor shows up. He apparently seems drunk. Not riding through a Shebogan town or anything, but he's just regular old drunk. And he does.
Who are the Shebogans again? I don't remember seeing them in the 50th.
Don't remember seeing them. Anyway, he comes in and does the monologue thing where he's tricking. He does a very second Doctor thing, but he has to act drunk to do it. I don't know why, but he does the monologue to save time and
you're thick, things. Thickety thick.
Yep. And then pours anti-oil. I'm not sure what that is. I'm guessing it's just sticky stuff. There's no reason to call something anti-oil, man. Yeah. It's not really.
It's Russell's run, bro. Just leave it alone. Okay.
Anyway, to pause that into this Clockwork person, just anything would have worked. You didn't need to call it anti-oil. Where did you even get it from? Like, you didn't get it from France. Anyway, what is that? He stops the clock on the main droid number 1, I guess. He seems to be like the first one who showed. They meet, so he's apparently the leader. I don't know. Then he flicks off a switch.
I call him Cool Blue Jacket Guy.
Cool Blue Jacket Guy. Yeah. He kind of looks like he's wearing what's his face from Interview with a Vampire, Lestat. He looks like he's wearing Lestat's. He's wearing Lestat's outfit. That's what he looks like. So I'm just going to call him Lestat from now on. Anyway, once he stops Lestat, the Doctor just flips one lever and it turns off all of the other droids in the room.
Yeah, man. It's like, remember that one button that turned off the solar shielding?
Yeah. It's some great stuff, man. Just some great stuff. Moffat, you could have written better than this. So
I don't know if this is entirely his fault, though.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll never really know, but at the very least,
because I mean, like, you look at Sarah Dollard's first entry where she had to look after Moffat's sloppy writing, and then when she didn't anymore, and it was so much better.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's really weird. I feel like maybe Russell had like Moffat had originally put Rose and Mickey somewhere else entirely, so he didn't have to deal with them at all, and then Russell T was like, no, I'm gonna need you to have them in there still.
Yeah, I'm Russell T Davies.
Anyway, so he gets him out of this situation because he can, because this is basically the point of this. It's a full-on explanation of what's going on, and then they get him, like, some dings happen that apparently messages from out in the field. Not sure why droids out in the field are still working, considering he supposedly turned them all off. But anyway, message comes in from one in the field and apparently turns the rest of them on somehow. Not sure how that works either.
Obviously, no, man, see, what you didn't know is there were two buttons.
Just anyway. So all of that stuff's done. They teleport off. Apparently they've found her when she's complete now, because the Doctor explains basically that they think because the ship is a certain years old, they need to wait until Renette is a certain years old before they can harvest her brain to put her in the brain pan, sort of deal. And we find out later that it's because the ship is also called is also called Madame de Pompadour, and that's why they think that she is the perfect brain, which still to this day I'm not really sure about, because computers generally think logically, and clocks have to have complete logical stuff. It doesn't make sense. Like, they've got the logic circuits to be able to create from just warp engines. to create time portals back into the 18th century, but can't figure out that a human mind probably wouldn't be the best choice.
Why are they using organic material at all?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense either. I mean, I guess like some human parts would work, like bones and like solid material to do certain things. But the thing is that when it really comes down to it, damage to a ship from an ion storm would be external damage, or like electronic systems would be broken. And obviously, the reason why the clockwork people still work is because they are running on clockwork and not like electricity. But even then, it kind of seems like they are running electricity because they have teleporters and can be turned off with a switch. So Anyway, so they go out, they teleport away. The doctor figures out that they've found out where she is in a proper time. Then there's this weird obviously someone decided that they needed to bring up the runtime. So Rose has to tell Renette that she's going to get attacked in a couple of years and to expect the doctor. And she's like, "Why are you even telling me this? This is really pointless. Come through tapestry and I'll show you the wild world of the future so that you can get possibly time-breaking information about your future." Great stuff.
Yeah.
Great
stuff. And then she hops in the TARDIS and her and the doctor disappear with Mickey and they leave Rose on the ship. Oh wait, that didn't happen. Exactly. That was in my imagination.
But also, I'm not sure how exactly this really works either. Is that the reason why we can hear her voice is because she's talking through the mantelpiece, the fireplace. But then they go into the future room where the mirror is behind the big thing in the middle of the dancing room.
Yeah.
So we go to where that is, where she's going to get executed. But anyway, she's talking into this fireplace, right?
Yeah.
So it should still technically be connected to the ship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it not connected to the ship later?
That's a good question. And I'm going to have to put you on to my dear friend, Stephen Moffat. Moffat, what do you have to say? Well, I'm Moffat. And then that's all he can say.
Yeah. So anyway, he jumps through he says stuff like just rubbish stuff really about how if he breaks the mirror, it's gonna stop all time portals from working. It doesn't really make sense whatsoever, but it's really just so that he can say that once he does it, the droids can't get home now. So yeah, so the droids can't get home now, so they turn themselves off after figuring that out. And then the doctor's like, it's all right. I much prefer being here with you than with Rose because she is really annoying. So we'll just take the long way around. It's only what, like the 51st century, right? So what? It's only like 4,000 years.
Yeah,
give or take.
Last until then.
He can last. Then he's got a couple.
And then he's Peter Capaldi when he meets Rose. He's like, "Get the bloody hell out of my TARDIS."
Exactly. He'll just like get a ship to where he needs to be so he can get in the TARDIS and then just leave both of them behind and doesn't care anymore. So it would have been fine.
Because he's Capaldi's doctor. He's like,
exactly. And the thing is that like even like by normal doctor standards, 5,000 years would have been fine for him as a fresh regeneration to last until then. He just might have been like a little bit older, like not even then like really that older. He could have just continued to look the same but be nearing another regeneration when he shows back up. That would have been a perfectly reasonable explanation. And then like he could like have like a journal of like the time that he spent with Madame de Pompadour, and then like how he like lived an entire life trying to hide from Torchwood and all that sort of other stuff until he was able to get back to this point where he had to keep like a down low. Like that would have been way more interesting of an end than, oh, that fireplace that you were talking into before? Yeah, it's totally fixed now. What? What?
Yeah, I would have been okay with like David
and then the
just
super
turning up.
Like the ending that was ridiculously sad for no good reason. Like just because it says that she dies at this point and the ship was connected to it doesn't mean that you can't show up with the TARDIS in between those two times to have some adventures with her. For real.
Big finish.
Moffat, you've done it again where you've not given a good reason for the doctor to come back for somebody.
Because he could have just hung out with her like every now and then.
He could have.
Big
exactly.
Finish.
Exactly, big finish. Just have him go pick her up and have some adventures.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
Big finish. You can put it just helping you out here, Gary Russell, because you're fully supporting the show. Hashtag he's not. Is you could just do it during his post-Honor run. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Because post-Honor, you can put whatever you want there.
Yes, you can. Anything you want.
Like
Take anything you want. Anyway, that's the Girl in the Fireplace. It was a lot of good bits in it. Madame de Pompadour was a fantastic and way better companion than Rose will ever be.
And the actress starts dating David Tennant after they stop filming this.
Yeah.
It's great.
So yeah, that's it. There you go.
Well, guys, that's part A for this week. I actually feel physically drained, so I'm gonna go.
So we're not even gonna do opinions and thoughts on it. We're just gonna go right.
Okay, fine. Okay. Mickey and Rose were pushed to the side, and I feel like what should have happened at the end of school reunion is Rose went and hung out with her mum, and then we could have just had the doctor
just
by himself.
kicked her out of the TARDIS and grabbed Sarah Jane and was like, "This is a way better dynamic. Let's just do this instead." And then Rose and Mickey can go off, and then we don't have them anymore.
Okay,
that's the end.
Okay, so we have to stick within the realms of possibility, unfortunately. So I think this story could have benefited from the end of school reunion having Rose wanting to go back to see her mum, because I still don't understand Rose's disdain for her mother. Her mother is not a bad person, so I don't understand. So we would have had to go there. She's hanging out with Mickey, and Mickey could have, like, in the next story, the doctor comes and picks them up, and Mickey's like, "Hey, I actually do want to come." And Rose and him are on good terms, so we don't have that stupid ending from school reunion when they jump in for the Cyberman story. So this story could have been just the Doctor, much like the Deadly Assassin, which would be a harken back to when we lost Sarah Jane the first time.
Exactly.
And it's just the Doctor on the ship trying to figure out what's going wrong and having a good time with Madame de Pompadour. I think that would have made for a significantly stronger story. And I think the only reason it didn't happen, because like Rose and Mickey just are there, and it's because Moffat would have been like, "I've written this just to have the Doctor in it." And Russell's like, "I'm not going to set that up whatsoever. I'm just not going to do that."
Exactly.
So yeah, that's really the only thoughts I have. I think this is a stronger story than anything we've had this entire season. Like this is the best story so far this season.
Yeah.
And
it probably is going to be the only good one this season.
Wow, I do remember liking Satan's Pit. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's coming up soon. That's actually pretty alright. So
I do remember thoroughly enjoying that. So yeah.
But then
what are your thoughts?
There's Idiot's Lantern and Fear Her coming up.
Oh, do we have to watch those? Okay, I want to know. Can we just skip Idiot's Lantern, Fear Her, and Love and Monsters?
Oh no, we have that as well.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
This is the weakest season in the entirety of New Who, in my honest opinion. Though in saying that, series 9, no 8, it's pretty bad.
Series 1 though also had some
but I mean, like, you could survive the farting aliens ones. Yeah, but Idiot's Lantern, Fear Her, and Love and Monsters are just awful.
So terrible.
Which one of those is Mark Gatiss?
I want to skip them.
I want to skip them.
Like a lot of them.
Can we just skip them?
I want to skip them too, but I don't think we can.
No, we should watch them, but I want to skip them. Like, more than anything. Anyway, guys, that's part A. Unless you want to say something about anything before we move on.
Just no. I don't know. There's so many ways that this could have gone better, and it's the thing is that, like, in school reunion, they were literally bat creatures. You could have just had vampires.
Yeah.
Come on. And in Girl on the Fireplace, Russell, if you just let Moffat write a story properly for once, then you could have, like, figured out how stories actually supposed to get written.
Yeah, but in saying that, Moffat drops the ball when he takes over. It's strange.
He does, but not in the first season of his, though. In the first series that he's on, he knows what he's doing for most of it. And then it just sort of...
I remember when we first watched Let's Kill Hitler, my wife and I. And she just got up and left. And that was the first time she had rage quit watching Doctor Who.
Fair enough.
To be fair, I had
too,
skipped Fear Her, Idiots, Lantern, and Love and Monsters. So.
I see. Anyway, the point I'm trying to say here is that the significant problem it shows very much in this, and it shows very much in all of other series of Russell T Davies and later stuff from Moffat, is that having one singular person who is in charge of the entire canon, the entire line of stories and the flow of the whole thing, the arc is itself. That's not a good idea.
Yeah,
and it hasn't worked at all for the whole thing, except for the first series that Moffat takes over, and it's probably because he'd been working on it the entire time.
Yeah,
you know, he's like, as soon as the first time that Davies says, "I'm gonna change your story," he's like, "Well, I'm gonna go ahead and set up a way better series." And that's why he does the prototype with Madame de Pompadour, because he's like, let's see how this works.
It's series 5.
Exactly.
Madame de Pompadour, The Golden Fireplace, is series 5, the episode.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. It's just that's my thoughts. So we can.
All right, I actually am physically drained. So we're gonna stop part A here. I'm gonna take a break, and then we're gonna do part B. We'll catch you in part B.